The Strange Light in the Woods. Richard was cruising down County Road 23 in his pickup truck when something caught his eye. "Holy cow!" he exclaimed, slamming on the brakes. A brilliant blue light was dancing between the trees. "I better check this out," he muttered, pulling over. As he walked into the woods, his jaw dropped. There, hovering 3 feet off the ground, was what looked like a car-sized UFO, pulsing with mysterious lights. "This is out of this world," Richard whispered. "What is out of this world?" came a voice behind him. Richard spun around to face an older man in overalls and a straw hat. "Oh, you scared the living daylights out of me," Richard gasped. The farmer looked confused. "Living daylights? How can daylights live?" Richard chuckled. "It's just an expression. It means you really startled me. I'm Richard, by the way." "I am Julio," the farmer said carefully. "What brings you to these neck of woods?" "These neck of the woods," Richard corrected automatically. "And I saw this weird light, and why do humans say neck for forest areas?" Julio interrupted. "Forests don't have necks." Richard paused, studying Julio more carefully. "You know what? You're right. That is weird. Hey, what do you know about extraterrestrial life?" Julio's eyes twinkled. "Funny you should ask. I am what you call an alien." Richard snorted. "Pull the other one." "Pull what other one?" Julio asked, genuinely puzzled. "It means I think you're joking," Richard explained. "There's no way you're an—" Before he could finish, Julio transformed into an exact copy of Richard, then a golden retriever, then a magnificent horse before returning to his farmer appearance. Richard's mouth hung open. "Well, I'll be darned." "Why will you be darned? Is this a clothing repair reference?" Julio asked earnestly. Richard burst out laughing. "It's just something we say when we're really surprised. Man, you really need help with these expressions, don't you?" "Yes," Julio nodded. "I can understand your basic language by reading your aura, but these, what do you call them? Idioms. They make my head spin." "Now that's one you got right." Richard grinned. "When something makes your head spin, it means it's confusing." "Fascinating." Julio beamed. "Would you teach me more? I find humans absolutely interesting, but sometimes you're all Greek to me." "Ha, now you're getting it," Richard exclaimed. "Though I bet you actually could speak Greek if you wanted to." "Indeed. But English slang is, how do you say, a whole different ballgame." Perfect usage. Richard high-fived the alien farmer. "I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship." As they walked back toward the UFO, Julio asked, "What does cool beans mean? I heard it today and was very confused. Beans are usually warm when cooked, yes?" Richard's laughter echoed through the woods. This was definitely going to be an interesting friendship.
English Corner. Let's talk about Richard and Julio. Hello, wonderful English learners. Today we're going to explore the fascinating story we just read about Richard and his unexpected alien friend. Let's dive into some interesting expressions and have a chat about them. First, did you notice how Richard reacted when he first saw the light? He said, "Holy cow." Now, why do you think we use this expression? Take a moment to think about it. That's right. Holy cow is a mild exclamation of surprise. It's like saying wow, but in a more colorful way. We use it when something unexpected happens. Here's a fun question for you. In the story, Richard said Julio scared the living daylights out of him. What emotion do you think Richard was feeling? Exactly. He was startled or frightened. This is such a vivid expression, isn't it? Even though it doesn't make literal sense. How can daylights be living? It's a fantastic way to say someone gave you a real fright. Let's look at some other gems from the story. Pull the other one. When Richard says this, he's basically saying, I don't believe you. It's a shortened version of pull the other leg, it's got bells on it, suggesting someone is trying to fool you. Well, I'll be darned. This is a mild expression of surprise or disbelief. It's similar to saying, I can't believe it. Here's another question for you. When Julio said English idioms make my head spin, what was he trying to express? Perfect. He meant they confuse him or make him feel dizzy with confusion. It's a great way to describe something that's hard to understand. And did you catch that wonderful moment when Julio said something was all Greek to me? This is particularly funny because he's an alien who probably could speak Greek. But this expression means something is completely incomprehensible to you. Here's a challenge. Can you think of a situation in your life where you might use it's all Greek to me? Maybe when looking at complicated math problems or trying to understand a technical manual. One last beautiful expression we saw was a whole different ballgame. When would you use this? That's right. We use it to describe something that's completely different from what we're used to or what we've been discussing. And finally, cool beans. This fun, casual expression simply means great or awesome. It's quite informal and playful, which is why Julio was confused about the temperature of the beans. Remember, learning idioms is like solving a puzzle. It might seem tricky at first, but once you understand the pieces, it becomes fun and rewarding. Just like Richard and Julio, don't be afraid to ask questions when you don't understand something. What was your favorite expression from the story? And have you ever had a moment like Julio where an English expression completely confused you? Keep practicing these expressions and soon you'll be using them as naturally as Richard does. Until next time, keep being curious about language. That's how we learn best.